Hello learners, I'm Mr. Saul, and as you know, we've been talking about the parts of plants. Do you guys remember the parts of plants? The root, the stem, the leaves, and the flower. All of these parts of the plant each have a different job that they do that helps the plant survive, and each one helps the others. So the roots, they hold the plant in the soil, and they keep it from getting blown away, and they drink up all that water and all the nutrients that are in the soil to keep the plant healthy, and then they pass that to the stem. The stem of the plant then moves all that water and nutrients up to the flower and the leaves and provides them what they need to stay strong and healthy. The leaves will drink in that sunlight and they'll take in that air through respiration, through breathing, and that'll give the plant what it needs, the carbon dioxide and the energy from the sun to grow big and strong. And then the flower of the plant will grow and produce seeds, and those seeds allow the plant to grow baby seeds or baby little plants, or what we call seedlings. So what I want to do today is I'm here at the school and I'm going to take you guys around on a little garden walk, and we're going to look at how different each of these parts of a plant can look on different plants. So a tree and a flower might look very different, but they actually have the same parts. They're just different sizes and maybe made out of tougher stuff. So let's go have a look around. So here on this one, you see we have a rose bush, and starting at the top, we see the beautiful flower. Wow, that's such a lovely color. And then we see here's a flower that's about to open up. Okay, and then of course the leaves. We can see right now that these leaves are covered in a little bit of water, and this is where the leaves breathe, on the bottom here. And then on the top, they'll be collecting and absorbing that sunlight. And then if we go down and look at the stem of the plant right here, we can see that it's actually covered in thorns. Ooh, that looks dangerous. I don't want to touch that. That's because the plant has those thorns to protect itself so that animals don't come rub on it or try to eat anything. And of course we can't see the roots, but it goes all the way down in the ground there. And this is the part that holds this plant in place, keeps it nice and strong and sturdy so I can barely even move it. All right, let's go take a look around at some other plants. So here on this one, we see a tree. So this one has a very big stem, and the stem on a tree is called the trunk. And you can tell that this one has some funny bark that peels off. Isn't that interesting? But that's okay, because this tree is always growing new bark underneath. And then obviously it goes down into the ground where the roots are holding it, and way up to where the leaves are collecting all that sunlight. Here we are in the garden, and I have a kale plant here. Now the fun thing about a kale plant is that these leaves are edible. That has such a nice flavor. It's kind of like broccoli almost. So we can see the leaves here getting the sunlight, and then down here, this is the stem. You guys see that? And then that's going to go down to the roots. So this stem is what's always going to be putting out these leaves. So some of these plants make what we call a root vegetable. This one right here, this is an example of a radish. Let me go ahead and pull one of these out. Here we go. So here is the radish. So this is the part of the root. Here we have the plant, and then it's got a bunch of different stems, and the leaf, of course. Down here we see the root, and then this part here, this is that root vegetable. This is the radish, and this is actually pretty yummy to eat. This one might be a little bit too big, but let's have a look. Yeah, so if we cut it open, on the inside, we can see that it's this white material, and this, yep, that's definitely radish. Very strong flavor. Wow. Okay. So we'll put that back. That'll rot and come apart and turn back into dirt after a little while. Let's keep looking at different types of plants. The bean plant, and inside of here, these bean pods, whoops, look at that. We're gonna find seeds, right? So wherever each of these bean pods came from, there had to be a flower here at some point, so that then it could make a seed. And these seeds are actually, those are yummy too. Num num num. Down here in this part of the garden, we have sweet potatoes, and this is a really fun one because these stems grow very, very long and like to spread out. So a lot of the time, a plant stem will go up, right? These, instead, they're gonna like to spread out. Look at all these crazy, crazy plant stems, and each one has a little leaf on the end. And if we look really closely right here, I don't know if you guys can see, all along the stem, there's these little root spots that are coming out. So anywhere that this stem touches the dirt, it's gonna put out roots so it can take in even more nutrients. So the plant, as you can see, it has done very, very well here. I believe this is sweet potato. So in the in the fall, we'll be able to come in here and dig up the ground and find those root vegetables underneath that are the potatoes. But right now, this plant is working very hard to get as much water and nutrients from the soil, and that's why it's putting out all these roots everywhere that it can along its stem. And if we look, we can see there's tons and tons and tons of these stems in here. So here, at this raised bed, it's totally overgrown with grass, and we have no reason to be growing this grass. It's just that we've been gone, you know, school's been closed, all that stuff. So this bed got kind of out of control. But as you can see, the stem on the grass, again, it doesn't try to push the grass straight up. Instead, it like hangs over the edge, almost like a waterfall, but like a grass fall, I guess. And as the stem grows, it's going to be putting out the little pieces of root and little blades of grass so that it can still absorb that sunlight and it can still breathe. This is called Bermuda grass, and it's very, very invasive. That means it spreads out and grows wherever it can. And there's not a lot that can stop it unless you stand there and pull it out. So let's see if I can pull some of this out. We can look at some of those roots. Oh, it's very strong. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. This is so much grass. So here we can see all the roots of the plant. Still got some dirt on it. But again, look at how long the plant itself was, right? So part of this plant, what it tries to do is to spread out and cover as much ground as it can. Wow, that is hard to get rid of. That's going to be a lot of work for Mr. Saul soon. And look right here, I found a very nice flower from this plant. And if we look inside, that's where the nectar and the pollen is. So a bee will come. Oh, and there's a little bug in there right now, a little ant. He's getting a little drink. Hey, buddy. So the insects will come, they'll get a drink, and then they'll go to another flower, like over here, and they'll leave the pollen from the first flower. Oh, look, there's some guys in there too. Hey, friends. So as they go visiting the different flowers, they'll take pollen, and that'll allow the plant to then make seeds, and then that'll allow it to grow new plants. So here is a very beautiful plant that I have in my garden. This one is called lamb's ear. And it's called lamb's ear because the leaves are very soft and they're covered in these tiny, tiny little hairs. Right now it's a little wet. And each of these hairs protects the plant and helps it to gather water and all that. And it feels so soft, almost like a lamb's ear. So here we see the stem of the plant. And then, of course, the roots go deep underground. Oh, look, here's some roots right here we can see. Wow. So those roots are going to be reaching down into the ground, drinking up water, drinking up nutrients, and help keeping all these plants healthy. Over here, this big thing, this is our grapes. And the grapes also grow in a vine. So we can see here all these stems of the grape plant. And these have grown and crossed over each other. All right, friends, so here we are in the woods. This is behind Witsit, and we got a lot of fun stuff going on back here. I want to show you another vine, which I think, whoa, I almost fell. I think that this vine is very, very interesting. So here we see this vine growing on this tree, right? It's going all the way down, and it's going to go into the ground. So this vine, instead of using its own stem to grow up and reach the light of the sun. Instead, it's using this tree, right? It's climbing up this tree, and to hold on to the tree, you can see how it almost looks like it's hairy. Well, these are roots. So this plant has actually figured out how to put roots out from its stem, and all along the length of the stem you can see it's got roots hanging out. That's just in case maybe the vine falls or something like that and it can touch the ground. It'll start drinking up nutrients through those roots, and also it will dig into the tree, and that's what helps hold this vine up against the tree. So even though it's got a stem and it's got roots and it's got leaves way up there and it's got flowers, different plants use these parts in different ways, right? For example, this tree has just a long stem that just holds it straight up. This vine has a long curly stem that uses roots to hold on. So there are so many different examples of the different ways that plants use the same part. Here is another really fun plant. This one is a birdberry, and look at all of these berries on here. So each of these little clumps of berries had to come from a flower. And inside of each one, let me pop this open here. And inside of each one, there's going to be a little seed. There they are. So those seeds are what's going to grow new plants. And look at all of the berries here. That's going to be so many seeds. If each one of these is full of like 3 seeds, we're going to have so many seeds from this one plant. So, and you can see that they're so heavy that they're actually weighing down the stem of the plant and pulling it down. Usually the stem would be standing straight up, but these fruits are so heavy that it's got it hanging down. So the whole point of the plant is to be able to live long enough to create these fruits, so that then these seeds can fall to the ground and create more plants. So we've been growing these for a few years now, which is why they look so big and healthy. And again, these are called birdberries, and obviously the birds love them. These are not good for us to eat though. Do not eat anything that you find out in the wilderness unless you know exactly what it is, because some of it could be poison. So another interesting thing that we'll see this time of year is that the trees and many plants are losing their leaves. All of them are ending up on the ground right here. So does this mean that these trees are dying? Well, no, not at all. It just means that now that the days are getting shorter and colder, the tree is going to kind of go to sleep. And if it's going to do that, it doesn't want to spend all the energy on keeping its leaves out when there's going to be less sunlight. So it's going to drop all of its leaves. These leaves will rot and turn into dirt. And then that dirt will have more nutrients that then the roots can drink up when it rains, and that'll make the tree healthy again. So really, by losing its leaves, the tree is giving itself food for next year. That's such a cool thing. Take a look at these plants I have here. The one that I planted in soil is doing very well, and it's very happy. The ones that I planted in clay and sand, they've not been able to get as much water into that stem. And when the stem isn't moving water, what happens to the plant? Very interesting. So we can see here that the stem, in fact, each part of the plant is equally important as all the others. So if the stem doesn't have water, the plant's gonna flop over. If it flops over, the leaves won't be able to get sunlight and they'll shrivel up. And if the roots aren't getting enough water, like you see there, then they're going to dry up too. This plant doesn't have very strong roots, unlike this one that looks very healthy. So we can see each part of the plant has a very important job, and if each part is not doing their job, then the plant will not survive. So they all have to be working together to keep the plant alive.